Hey everybody, and welcome back. We're gonna continue on with the water temple. This place sucks. I really don't like it. Not having a good time with that. I really want to know how everybody's doing. If they're reading and watching. I really hope everybody's doing okay, because it has been a rough month. I didn't record anything this month. I'm just jumping back into it. I had a lot to deal with, emotionally speaking. And I'm gonna just go ahead and jump into that because I think it's super important and I really want to touch down on it. So, backstory. icecat is a big wrestling fan, obviously. We go over the Jimmy Hart thing and all that stuff, and we have fun with it, right? I would like to hope you guys have fun with it. If not, maybe I got you interested, and if I didn't get you interested, maybe it's just a funny reference. Maybe you don't care. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you have a problem with it. And I'm joking because I just really will keep making references. Like, I really love it. And I think they're funny. So, this May, and I'm recording this on June 1st, so by the time you guys see this, it'll probably be a little bit after, but it's still important. I still want to touch on it. This month, one of my favorite wrestlers committed suicide, and it was, for one, shocking and heartbreaking in a way. And again, backstory. Big wrestling fan, and the reason why is I got into it when I was younger, way younger. I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, which, for those of you who don't understand eras, there's basically the Attitude Era, where you know about The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then there was the Ruthless Aggression era, which was John Cena, Randy Orton, the people like that, big names like that. When I started watching wrestling as a kid, women's wrestling was considered trash. It was there as nothing but a kind of like, just like a sideshow attraction, essentially. And that's kind of ridiculous, right? Like a sideshow attraction and something like wrestling, which is considered a sideshow attraction, right? But that's what it was considered, so the women weren't taken very seriously, and they got a lot of, like, you know, like, crappy matches where they had to, like, wrestle in, like, bra and panties and that kind of stuff. Just, you know, really not okay stuff that doesn't go on in wrestling today, thankfully. Now they're taken a lot more seriously. But back then, that didn't mean the women that were wrestling weren't necessarily good at being a professional wrestler. Some of them weren't really trained, and that wasn't their fault. They really didn't train them back then, so it was either kind of you fell into this group or you were one of the ones that came in and you were good looking, which honestly in that era there were a lot of good looking women wrestlers, and today's women wrestlers are good looking. I don't know, maybe it's just because these people work out, but they are like, extremely attractive. But either way, you're just good looking. The wrestler I'm talking about, and I'll go ahead and say her name, it's Ashley Mazzaro. So you probably maybe have seen something on news about it because it's pretty crazy. That it happened so shockingly, and there's this big uproar in at least the wrestling community, and to a degree, some of it outside of that, which I was really surprised and kind of relieved about, that, you know, she had that kind of impact on people, and that people knew, you know, and people helped out her kid, because a lot of the women she worked with went ahead and made a GoFundMe for her kid, who was like 18 or 19 and just now is without a mother, so that's really horrible. But either way, back to the story before we jump into the sad parts. You weren't really taken seriously. Now, like I said, a lot of the women busted their ass out there, and no matter, even if you are not great at the craft, you still take the risk when you get in the ring. You put your body on the line, it's quite legitimately. And if you want to go over why that's a thing, we can do that another day. The point is, I was a little icecat and I used to watch this, and it would amaze me that these really beautiful and strong women would come out here and they just beat some ass. That is like all up icecat's alley from a young age, just up my alley. I really liked that, and I had a couple favorites. I'm not gonna name them all here because it's mainly just about Ashley right now. But I had a lot of favorite women wrestlers, and I connected with them, and that's really important in that business. You got to be able to connect with the audience, and she definitely resonated and connected with me. And another reason why I'm pretty sure it connected is because icecat's childhood was trash. Trash is even like, I joke and say I'm trash and stuff, but no, my childhood really sucked. It was really horrible. I moved around a lot. My parents were extremely dysfunctional, because it turns out when you have a kid, you don't exactly have all the answers to life either, and you actually don't know what you're doing and still trying to figure things out, especially if you're like my parents and had me more or less as young as they did. So that's something I had to contend with as well, and it was made home life really terrible, and school life was also really terrible. I was not popular, I was picked on a lot, Kind of a loner because, again, it didn't really behoove me to hang around with people that were just going to make fun of me and just, incessantly, cut me down. So every week, and I mean, I had every day, really. Well, specific days in the week, I lived for these shows. I mean, it would really, I kid you not, get me through the week, these shows. And back then, the Ruthless Aggression era, they had Monday Night Raw, ECW, which was on Wednesday nights, I think, and they moved it around a lot. I might be wrong. Someone else who might know a little more about that. But they had that, and they had Friday Night SmackDown. I am a Monday Night Raw. I was a Monday Night Raw baby. I loved it. It was 2 hours back then. It was freaking, it was awesome seeing live television of these crazy, athletic, strong women and men get out there and tell these stories where they beat each other's ass. Or more or less, that's what ends up happening, because it's wrestling. I mean, sometimes they'd outwit each other, but I kind of came for the ass kicking, to be honest with you. So that was super big to me. And she came in on what was called the Diva Search in 2008. No, I think it was early. I think it was 2005. She left in 2008. So she came in on the Diva Search, and I immediately really liked her. She was really good on the mic. She had a different look than a lot of the other women that wrestled back then. Everybody has their own unique look, but she was kind of like the punkier diva back then. That's what they called them, divas. She was one of the punkier divas, and I really connected with me. I was like, whoa, man, there's someone out there who kind of has that look and likes the stuff that I like, that I get my ass handed to me for, verbally or physically. And she's out here being super cool. Like, she's really, I mean, strong and doesn't scared of, like, when people, like, team up on her 3-on-1 and stuff like that. Like, that was, for me, really crazy and really cool. That's one of the things I really liked about her. And again, she wasn't afraid to be different. She was out there being herself. Like, a lot of people had different gimmicks where it's like, oh, I'm the hot one, or like, oh, I'm the badass one, or, I mean, I think in wrestling you always want to be the badass one, but those were a lot of the gimmicks, and sometimes I liked them all. Or I'm the underdog, Mickie James. That was a good one. I know I said it wouldn't, but I think I had to mention that one because she was the underdog for a long time in that era, among with other people. But the moral of the story is, that's who she was back when I was growing up. And like I said, I counted down the days that I could see or watch or talk about or glitch. What is going on with this glitch about wrestling? I was super, super into it. I think I came in the wrong side. That's the problem. And I was up that glitch, though. That was crazy. This is the Cursed Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time copy, guys. Oh, man, I wish I hadn't said that, because I'm going to think about freaking ghosts. And I don't do ghosts. Anyway. So that was really, really something that connected me. Just knowing that no matter how crappy my day was going to be at school, how crappy my day was going to be at home, I had wrestling. And to a degree, because, I mean, she obviously wasn't the only one, but I had, Ashley, who was kind of like a friend to me. And I know that's kind of weird, but I don't know. There's actually a whole, like, phenomena around people who, like, listen to podcasts or radio shows or watch TV of real people, and they form this kind of familiarity with them where they feel like they are friends and they can bond. It's this whole thing I heard on a podcast called Stuff Mom Never Told You. Maybe I'll go over linking something that syndrome is, but I have to look it up and go over it. But the long story short is, I kind of formed in my head this kind of bond where it was like I had all these people that were, for the most part, pretty cool, because that's a big one for icecat. Pretty cool, and they weren't scared to be themselves, and they were really strong. And when I would think about, oh man, my life really sucks, and this really sucks, but at least there's wrestling. Honestly, that was the first and foremost thought. At least there's wrestling. I kid you not, that was one of my first and foremost thoughts. The reason I'm coming back, actually, I'm going the wrong way. There's remember that blast, that, like, cut in the wall? We're going to that crack. That's what we're going to do. Sorry. I forgot what I was doing for half a second. But anyway, at least there's wrestling, and there's Ashley, and, Mickie, and, a bunch of other wrestlers, long story short. I'm not going to name all of them, because I'd have to actually look at the roster, and at this stage of my life, I'd name them all, because they're all pretty awesome. And man, was that just something, man, I'd like I said, I'd get down and I'd be like, well, at least there's wrestling, and what would Ashley do in this situation? What would Mickie do in this situation? or I could relate to their situations where, you know, they're in an unfair, like, 2-on handicap match, or 2-on-3, or 2-on-1, or something like that. You know, I could relate and be like, you know, they don't give up and they try. I could at least, you know, try and have that kind of perseverance. And I'm sure it sounds stupid or cheesy or corny, but honestly, back then, I didn't care because I was like, this is what we got. This is keeping me, you know, really grounded. And that's saying a lot because I'm pretty sure as the more I look back on my childhood, it looks like I was like really, really depressed for most of it. And I don't mean like, I mean really depressed and like anxious and a lot of PTSD from some traumas that happened, involving death actually. And there were a lot of times I felt isolated and alone and hopeless, and wrestling and Ashley and all my favorite wrestlers were there, and they got me through the day, they got me through the week, and eventually they got me through the years. So again, it was really, I can't stress enough how back then, especially, it was such an important part of my life. And it still is. I don't watch as much as I used to. And I've got reasons for it. Time is a big one, but I just, I just don't watch as much as I used to. But when I get a chance, trust me, I'm actually was watching Impact not too long ago, being like, this is actually pretty cool. I gotta start watching this stuff more. I gotta start making time for it, so that's one of the things I'm gonna try to make more time for. But it was really, really special to me. And all those moments that were created back then were very special to me, and meant a lot more than just the story that was told. It connected with me in a really big way. In a very, I guess, influential way. So, fast forward from baby icecat to growing up and making it through and hanging on, surprisingly. Oh crap, I forgot the spikes. I always forget the spikes are there. And fast forward to like WrestleCon. Now WrestleCon I went to, I brought up a couple times, a couple years back now. I want to say almost like 3 years ago. Either way, I was stoked. I was ecstatic. I was like telling everybody that I was going to WrestleCon and it was going to be amazing. And to a degree it was, but not for the reasons that one would immediately expect, because I was extremely nervous to meet all these people. I was really shy the whole time. I didn't want to harass them because, you know, like I said, I'm a super big wrestling fan, so I listen to all these podcasts where they talk about how fans are rude or mean or grab or touch on them, so I was like super shy the whole time, and I like would just say hi and just try to talk to them and really kind of keep, you know, distance and be respectful. That was my whole thing, because like I didn't want to be that asshole. I didn't want to be the asshole fan who was a jerk and gave them a hard time, you know. And I know some of them have bad days and they snap, and some of them just maybe aren't that nice. In general, and that's coming from me listening to them, not obviously my personal experience with them. But, okay, so we're back up here, so this is important. Yes, this is important. Okay, I remember what I'm doing now. So that was my whole MO the whole time, and even they would be like, hey, you know, it's okay, you can come in for a hug and stuff like that, and I'd be like, okay. I also was highly scared that they were in character and were going to cut a promo on me in the worst way, and so I was really scared. Actually, even, I mentioned another one, Maria Kanellis, who was a diva back then. She was there, and I was terrified of her. I don't know if something happened with her and her husband who was there, who's a wrestler named Mike Bennett, or whatever, but she gave a look that looked like a promo look, and I was like, haha. Both, it's funny, I went with Chestnut. Both her and me were like, you know what, we'll pass on that. I eventually did work up the courage to talk to her, because I was like trying to make rounds, because we had to get up really early in the morning to go, and it was getting close to closing time where we had to leave, and I was like, no, I gotta talk to her, because I'm gonna have regrets if I don't. And I'm glad I did, because she was super nice and was not mean. She really appreciated the fact that, you know, even like 10 years later, I was like, man, you're so cool. And basically, because she hadn't really wrestled something. And that's the same story with Ashley, who was actually there too. And she was so nice when I met her. I only met her once. I watched and idolized her in a way. Well, not idolized her, but I admired her. You know, I looked up to her and watched her all those years, and I finally get to meet her. So for me, it was pretty crazy. You know, it was pretty wild. I was like, oh man, and they're not. I was like, oh my goodness, they're amazing. And by the way, still look like they're really young. And it, like honestly, when I stepped in there, it felt like I was stepping back in time and nobody had aged. I don't know if it's because they're in good shape or whatever. You know what? I can't get that right now. I'm gonna come back for it because I know what we're gonna get across this hall. I think we're gonna get the long shot. Anyway, so it's like, nobody's age. It's like I'm 10 all over again. I was like, no, I'm 12, whatever. It was like I'm 12 all over again. It was an incredible feeling. to go back and I'm gonna die. All right, I'm not gonna make it. Nope. Okay, we're gonna run that one back, obviously. So it felt like I was a kid all over again. I was super excited and obviously nervous. A lot of stuff, but again, I met her. She was super nice. I talked to her about, you know, how I always really liked her, and even though she wasn't the best wrestler, it's true. Like I said, she wasn't really trained very well, and not a lot of them were. But it was okay, because I still, you know, she still went out there, did her thing, and was obviously impressive enough for baby Ice Cat, right? So that was a big thing, and she really appreciated that. I told her about the time that one of the WrestleManias where they came to, specifically my state, and they never, ever really do WrestleMania here, so it was a big deal. That was the one I pretty much begged my mom for the pay-per-view money for. It was like $50 back then. That was a lot of money. It still is, honestly. A lot of money, and like, it's like, you know, it's like the pay-per-views, like, you have to watch them over and over. Like, that was the rule. Like, you have to watch this pay-per-view over and over and over again for us to justify getting it for you. And we watched the hell out of it. Me and Chestnut watched the F out of that stuff. I'm gonna kill these guys off first because... Excuse me. You know what? Let me check to see if there's a way to get back up here, because I would rather not have to... You know what? I don't think there is. Alright, so we're just gonna go. We're just gonna straight get into it. And that was the one where she wrestled in the middle of their match, their tag match, her and Maria, actually, funnily enough. They, the lights went out, and it was this big thing, and I was like, oh my god, is that part of the match? And it wasn't. Turns out it was a technical difficulty, and me and Chestnut fought for like a couple minutes on whether that was part of the whole thing or not. And she was like, wow, that's awesome. You guys must be, you know, I really appreciate, you know, you guys, I guess, you know, liking her. I don't know. To me, it's like, how could we not like you? You're the greatest! You know, like some Bender type stuff. Like, you're amazing! How could we not, you know? So that was my perspective on it. But, yeah, she was super nice, super down to earth. It's funny, in the middle of that whole thing, what her poor merchandise girl got, I guess, told off by some jerk and started crying, and she literally, like, handed us her belt, which they're expensive, by the way. If you didn't know, those replica belts are super expensive. I know, not just because I know, but because I want to get one, they're super expensive. And she, like, handed it off to Chestnut, who was stunned. The torch had been passed in her mind, and at least that's what I told her for like months afterwards. And still do. I'm like, the torch is passed. You're so ready to break into wrestling. You're ready for the champ once. And she went to go basically beat some ass, literally, the real life ass too. She was like, whoever pissed off this girl. She was like 16, by the way. She was really young. Some guy, I guess, said something really mean to her, made her cry. She was about to go whip some ass. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty cool. It was really nice of her. She was very down to earth. I talked to her about wrestling and outside of wrestling and her kid and all that stuff, because these are things you know when you're an extreme, well, I don't know about extreme, but as big a wrestling fan as I am. She was super nice, super down to earth. She didn't have to be. We got a picture with her. I couldn't afford pictures with everybody, so the people I could get pictures with and afford, I really tried to make an effort to do that. And boy, it was a magical moment for me. I mean, like I said, it really resonated with me. Really meant a lot. That because in my opinion, this is their job. They get paid to do this. They get paid to be, you know, amazing as they are. And they don't have to, like, she didn't have to be nice to me. She doesn't have to do these things. And I know, like, to a degree, it's like, oh, but Ice Cat, you paid her, but I guess, I don't know, I guess maybe it's like one of those you had to meet her type deals, but it was, I feel like she went out of her way to, I don't know, make me feel special, maybe. Or maybe that was just her. Because, again, a lot of people, when this happened, came out and were like, I can't believe it, and they went over describing some of the same feelings that I had about her personality, and for me only meeting her one time, it kind of... Already? Alright, well... It kind of fits that we have this fight in the middle of a difficult conversation. That, anyway, that she invoked this kind of feeling with them. So when I heard the news, I was again heartbroken and devastated. I felt like I'd lost a friend, a close friend. And again, I'd only met her once. And I know you guys have the backstory, you'd probably still think it's silly, but it really was crazy. And I think the biggest reason it was really astonishing to me is because that was one of the people who made me feel less isolated and alone. That was one of the people who kind of gave me the strength I needed to get through the day. And to think that, I mean, of course I know she's just normal, everyone's human, right? That she really felt that isolated and alone. And it's really crazy because she'd recently, literally like a couple months ago, had been talking about getting back into wrestling and was stoked to meet all the fans because she'd been gone for so long, but so many people still really, really cared about her. Not just myself, but I mean, lots of people were like, holy crap, man, that's such a cheap move he does. But anyway, so it was really devastating. I was really sad. I cried a lot. Okay, I'm just gonna cheat. Did that really block? I thought he could hit. You can't hit him with the Megaton Hammer? Are you kidding me? Man, I don't know how we're gonna do this one. Alright. Either way, it was really upsetting. This person, like I said, who made me feel powerful when I felt powerless, experienced such an isolation and so hopeless that she decided to take her own life. And it really still upsets me. It's really sad. And I know it probably... her life means a lot more than just wrestling, obviously. She had a daughter, she had family and friends who cared about her, obviously. But that's, again, my point. Like, you know, you have all these people and you can still feel that way. And you can feel the... just... like, you can't make it through the day. Like, you can't make it through the week, and you can't make it through the months, and you can't make it through the years. And even sillier... like I said, I went through the 5 stages, so at some point I was like, man, if only I'd been more confident and, I don't know, somehow finagled a way to get her number and got in contact with her and just do something to stop that, you know, something to stop, to make her be like, to kind of reward the favor, return the favor, you know, not reward, but like I said, return the favor, to wish I could have been there so that she didn't have to feel like how I grew up feeling and how she helped console and comfort me in ways that I know I didn't explain when I met her, because I was already doing a lot of crying outside of me, just being like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this stuff is happening, like I'm meeting you, like all that crying, but crying being like, you know, my childhood sucked and you made it a lot better, you know, I didn't get a chance to tell her that, and again, it really sucks. And my point in all this is, outside of making a longer video than normal and getting stuck in this stupid battle with Dark Link, and maybe actually this is a good allegory for fighting hopelessness and depression. He's fighting himself all alone. And we fight ourselves a lot all alone, and we feel isolated, and we all get down, and we're all human, and we all feel hopeless. And I just think it's really important that if you're feeling that way, that you please talk to somebody. Please. Please do not do the same thing that she did. And leave all the people who care about you, even though you don't feel that way right now, behind. It would be really a shame and very heartbreaking for other people. And the reason I bring that up is, just like I said, just like how she didn't know me and I didn't really know her, she connected with me in a way that she obviously had no idea about, and her being gone forever in the manner that she, you know, went out really hurts me, right? So I really cared. Even if she didn't know, I really cared. And I'm sure there's other people that were close to her that just, she knew and cared, you know? So I really can't stress enough that if you're in that place where you don't feel like you can make it through the months and years and days, that you please reach out. And maybe you don't feel comfortable talking to your loved ones because you're in a weird headspace, or, you know, that horrible headspace you can get in when you feel that way. You can call numbers where there's hotlines and there are people that will just listen. And I wouldn't tell you guys this stuff if I really didn't, again, believe in it. I believe that you gotta reach out to these things, because how you're feeling now isn't how you're gonna feel forever, because like I said, like I always say here, everything changes. The only thing that's consistent in life is changing, and that's the only thing we can really look forward to is change. And how you're feeling right now isn't how you're gonna feel forever. And I speak from a very honest place, because I have very much been in those headspaces as an adult, navigating adulthood, and have attempted to take my life on several occasions. And it is sucky when you're in that headspace. I really know, and I've called the hotlines and they just listen, and whatever you gotta say, just let it out. Just talk to somebody, reach out. Know that you're not alone. And I think it's really important that you guys know that. Even if you want to reach out to little old icecat, I am more than happy to help talk you through whatever it is you're going through, so that you do not end up in the same place, leaving behind loved ones and not giving yourself a chance to experience something better. So even if you're in this place where you don't feel like your loved ones care, you're doing yourself a dishonor and a disservice, because you're not giving yourself the chance to experience change and to experience something better. And for things to, you know, not suck so much anymore. So I am going to link in the description a link to all the hotlines I can get my hands on, of, you know, suicide prevention lines where you can talk to somebody if you're feeling that way. You can talk to icecat. I mean, wrestling was one of the things that made me feel great, and you know what? One of my favorite YouTubers on this channel also made me feel less like ass all the time, and that was Vash123459, and it felt like I could sit down and watch his little segments, and felt like I was sitting with a friend laughing and going over gameplays, and that's actually one of the reasons I started the channel. Is when I was a kid and I'd watch his show, I felt like I was sitting down with like a you know, like a friend or something, like a cousin or something like that. Yeah, maybe not family, but you know, just a friend, and we would all laugh and, you know, have the same kind of reactions to the crazy stuff that's going on and stuff like that. So to me, it was really, really integral. It was another important part of my life, and wrestling was that part of my life. And I hope, even if this isn't a part of your life in that sense, maybe I don't connect or resonate with you that way, but I don't care about that. I care about you not feeling hopeless, not feeling isolated, not feeling alone, which is why I debated heavily if I could record and not talk about her, and not talk about what happened and how it impacted me. And I really came to the headspace that, or really the decision that I couldn't. I just didn't feel like, again, even though she didn't know, and this isn't a big channel, and I don't care about any of that, I really felt I couldn't, you know, go over it without talking about her. Without going over how it impacted me. And how I would really hate for someone else to have to go through this as well. Or again, you, if you're out there feeling that way, to do yourself that dishonor of not allowing something to get better. For things to change. So again, I'm gonna put out the descriptions for the hotlines for suicide prevention. Call them. I've called them. I called them a lot in high school, to be honest with you. And that, again, that was when I was in less of a bad place than as a kid, crazily enough. The living situation was still hectic, but overall, I didn't have to deal with a lot of the same things I dealt with as a kid, but I mean, I think everybody is going to go through those times where you just feel like you can't do anything. Like, man, I can't believe that. We're going to have to start over. Sorry, guys. I was not actually distracted by getting emotional. I was distracted by the fact that I can't beat him, but still. What's important is, I don't want your guys' lives to be this game over screen, and I apologize if it seems like I'm making light of a serious situation. We use humor as a coping mechanism here at icecat. In icecat land. But seriously, it's not a joke. And this isn't a joke, and I am emotional, if you can't hear it. It really pains me again to think that this is reality, and that she's gone forever, and we'll never get a chance to see anything. And I don't even care if she didn't wrestle again. The fact that she's gone forever is terrible. Because, again, she felt alone, and I don't want you guys to feel alone. I want you to reach out, please. If not for me, for yourselves. Even if you don't feel it's possible. I would really hope that this message resonates with you and connects with you, and that you, like I said, seek some help. And I'm going to put those links in the description, and it's been about 30 minutes or so, a lot longer than I'm used to putting out these days, but I can't stress enough that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, things are going to change. Sometimes not right away for, you know, the upswing, but it will end in a better place than where it's landed. So, we're gonna go ahead and call it here. I appreciate everybody sticking around, even through my long, drawn-out, monologue here about childhood icecat and, hard topics like suicide. And I really hope you guys let me know what you're reading, what you're watching. If you're feeling isolated, alone, or hopeless, that you reach out and talk to icecat or talk to someone. So I'm putting those links in the description. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bid you guys a bye.